Welcome to my project ideas. This is an ongoing series on SAP Wi-Fi projects. And in this particular video, we'll learn how to display a disclaimer page for GDPR or any other compliances in SAP Wi-Fi. So there are some requirements where you need to showcase a disclaimer page to every user when they log in for the first time. And they have to accept that disclaimer. Otherwise, the login or the data cannot be shown to them. So in these scenarios, you have to create a layout and you have to provide a checkbox and you have to save that data in database so that every time when the user logs in, they don't have to select or they don't have to accept every time. So you actually save it out in a database and every time the user logs in, you cross check it out if the user has the disclaimer accepted or not and accordingly open up the disclaimer page. So you need to have basic knowledge of JavaScript. You need to have IDE access. Certainly, the code will be written either in Business Application Studio or Web IDE, and certainly basic knowledge of SAP UI5 is required. So let's jump into the coding part now. So before we actually discuss the coding part, there is an article written which explain all the scenarios. The screenshot is also added, and also we have added the code so that you can just copy and paste and get started with the coding. So now we'll come back to the web IDE where we are actually coding. So we have created a basic application. In the view, we have not written anything apart from the title. And in the controller, everything is written here. So whenever the user logs in, the first page will be shown. So we are triggering the on init part of that page. And in that, we are calling a function to showcase the disclaimer page. So now the showcase to disclaimer actually have a few parts. The first part is creating the dialog box. So the dialog box will have two sections. One will be text where we have written the GDPR compliance related content. Second will be a checkbox where by default it will be false that a user can read and actually mark it as checked. So after this option, the dialog box is created. SAP.m.dialog is the way that to create a dialog box. You can also create dialog in XML. And in this use case, what happens is like whatever title is like we have mentioned, the content that we have created above is added here in the content part. And it has a button called begin button where the button name is called continue and it will be enabled once the user checks the checkbox. And so that also we have covered in the next part. But once the user checks the checkbox, then this press button can be pressed, right? Which is called continue. And here we will close the dialog box. But also will provide a place where the user can actually, the developer can actually write the code. So here you have to do a OData call in the backend to save the acceptance of the user. So you can pass the user ID, you can pass the flag that user has accepted it out. And then once it is done, accordingly, you can show the success message that your acceptance is saved in database and you will not be asked again, something like that. And also, if the disclaimer is closed, that is also handled here. So the entire section is destroyed. So once the disclaimer is opened up after clicking this particular, actually after loading the particular page, one more thing happens is like we get the item within the VBox and we check if the particular checkbox selected, we are making the button enabled and disabled. So this part is maintained here. So let's just run the application. So this application is running now and by default on init is triggered, right? That is the first function from the function cycle of SAP UI5 and thus the disclaimer dialog box is opened up and also the content from VBox is appearing. On click of this particular checkbox, this is enabled and this we have handled here, right? Whenever it is clicked, we are getting the selection parameter to become true or false. That same thing is set here in the button, right? And on click of continue, this part is triggered, right? where the dialog box will be closed and a message will be shown that it is saved in database. And also for the logic, we have provided a space. So your acceptance is saved in database and you will not be asked again. So this is the entire idea of showcasing GDPR other compliances and giving an option to the user to accept it out. So I hope this video will help you to create your own disclaimer in the SAP UFI application. In case you have other questions, other comments, you can always comment in the comment section below. Thank you very much.